From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity as we get the top stories tonight. Tinubu, Peter Obi, others signed peace accord ahead of 2027 general elections as INEC plans to deploy 1.4 million ad hoc staff nationwide. Resurgence in deadly attacks as gunmen kill more than 60 in 3 states within 48 hours. U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington has no talks planned with Tehran as standoff deepens.
In business, Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission uncovers possible cement price manipulation across Nigerian markets.
And in sports, Barcelona finally get their man as Spanish champions signed 2026 FIFA World Cup Player of the Tournament, Rodri from Manchester City.
Glad you're here. Tonight begins shortly. With Nigeria's 2027 political season officially gathering momentum, major presidential contenders have signed a national peace accord while INEC prepares for a massive electoral operation. President Bola Tinubu, Peter Obi, and Omoyele Sowore were among the political leaders who signed the accord in Abuja, pledging peaceful issue-based campaigns. Meanwhile, INEC says it will deploy about 1.4 million ad hoc staff across more than 176,000 polling units nationwide. News Central's State House correspondent Bettina Uweli was at the event and brings us this report.
We're currently applying for governorship seats in one of the states in Nigeria. Please rise to your feet.
The peace accord convened by the National Peace Committee commits political actors to issue-based campaigns and the rejection of violence, hate speech, and misinformation. Introduced in 2015, the accord has become a critical pre-election mechanism to curb inflammatory rhetoric and promote credible elections.
We must be candid about the realities confronting our democratic space. Recent data from the NPC Election Committee Information Hub indicates an alarming resurgence of hate speech, toxic polarization, coordinated misinformation, and personally driven political discourse. As preparations for the 2027 general election intensify, we are witnessing a disturbing shift from policy-driven engagement towards character assassination, identity-based provocation, and inflammatory rhetorics.
In past election cycles, including 2019 and 2023, multiple parties signed similar agreements pledging to respect electoral laws and accept outcomes or seek redress through legal means. While stakeholders say the accords have helped reduce tensions, concerns remain over compliance, with some critics describing them as symbolic without strict enforcement.
It is a ritual. I'm not deceiving myself. We're going to finish signing the peace accord next tomorrow. You hear about violence propelled by the major parties who are here. You don't need to be deceived. We just came from Australia. That's an off-season election of less than 2 million voters. 50 people have to die. So maybe what the peace accord needs to do is also have a justice accord that will follow if anybody then go against the peace. The terms and conditions of the peace accord, they can be picked up and tried.
That we have peaceful, issue-based campaign. We must, for the sake of this country, ensure that our conduct reflects the office we're seeking, our behavior, and that we do the right things and campaign on issues that Nigerians are going through today.
As campaigns officially begin, stakeholders say the focus must now shift from signing to implementation, urging political parties, supporters, and institutions to uphold the spirit of the agreement, strengthen voter confidence, and ensure a peaceful, credible electoral process. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Uweli.
Many thanks, Bettina. Let's turn now to peace advocate Moses Abolade. For this conversation, he joins us from Abuja. Thank you very much for being with us. In that report, my colleague talked about compliance to the signing of the accord, just moving it away from symbolism to real enforcement. Do you think that we're evolving and the possibility of having a peace accord with some teeth in the future is in the offing?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very good event. And just like Shore mentioned, it's becoming a ritual. It ought not to be a ritual or not to be seen in that light. The reason why it's in that light is because over time we understand that action speaks more than agreement. And the action of these actors have shown that most times we don't even respect those agreements anymore. But we also know that accords are not laws. They are peace accords or peace agreements, complementary injunctions to ensure that there is something to hold people accountable to before and during or after an election season. But we must understand that we need to now move beyond just signing to actually ensuring that we take this thing seriously. I also want to just make a tweak to what Showore mentioned there about Justice Accord. It also shows our understanding of what peace means, because peace should be defined. Peace is defined, actually, not should be defined. It's just now climate or in our climate that we are still trying to understand what peace really means. Peace is defined as justice. Peace is defined as security. Peace is defined as equity. So when we are saying peace, it should be all encompassing of all those things. Like, for instance, my organization, we see peace as justice, peace as security, peace as development. So if we have proper understanding of what peace really means, we're not even just make it an informal thing or a ritual or something we just do. We need to put back those concepts in their right positions. So when we say peace accord, it should also mean justice accord. And it's also because we have not seen justice in all the process, which need to get back into that meaning. So the major reasons why it's like that is because consequences of people's actions doesn't really tally with what they agreed with. But this is an evidence that you have signed something and we can hold you account. The major issue is not signing of an accord. Great work. Salute everybody who is part of this. And also, we are very glad that this is always happening. But beyond this, we must now move to implementation. What will happen if people really default? What will happen? What will be the consequences? And those are the things. Those consequences are also in our laws. We are not. We are not. What's it called? We are not short of laws and consequences. We just have to implement it.
Yeah,
and it's also good.
Not to sound pessimistic, but you kind of sound like the same comments we've been hearing. Some accountability, we need to put these laws. But in technical terms, for someone who is a peace advocate, how do we ensure compliance? Is it even possible? If it is not possible, why then do we continue with the symbolism of the act when people who sign the accord half the time don't hold up their ends?
So it's a systemic issue, and I think on your show several times I've discussed those systemic concerns. So Nigerian concern is not just is a problem of systems, and people make up those systems, and that starts with even the umpire of our elections. So who are the people, and what are the structures we have put in place that institutions can be more superior, stronger than people who are in the system? And that's where we'll start from, in a way that nobody is above the law, in a way that nobody can say something and go away with it, in a way that when a political actor ensures something is done, we have placed some structures and institutions. We have placed institutions like INEC should be above anybody.
Yeah, well, on the plus side, though, there are those who say, as mundane as it may seem to others, as symbolic as it may look, that it does have some powers in terms of de-escalating tensions and allowing for the campaign to start on a slow rising pace, other than the violent momentum we've had in the past. What do you say?
I think de-escalation is a bit softer than, the violence is not as intense as before. Good, but it doesn't really solve the major issue. But it's also a good thing, as I said. I also said it's not a bad thing. It's a very good approach. We need to have those negotiations done and see if they can actually meet up to that. But that is just on the symbolic note. Now, how do we ensure that these people can also still respect the law? Because the major thing is that peace accord and peace agreement, most times the people that violate it, just like what you already said, is still most of the time the people that perceive themselves to be higher than this law. And that mentality is the thing we must crush until we build system where people are subjected to the law. Rather, you are a ruling president, you should be able to respect the law.
All right.
You should not be the one to determine some things. And those are the root causes of our problem. So until we fix that, we cannot fix this.
Moses, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Still focusing on the elections coming in 2027, conversations around security and credible elections have taken center stage at the 8th edition of the Blueprint newspaper public lecture in Abuja. The event combines a crucial public discourse on national security and electoral integrity with the presentation of the Blueprint Newspaper Impact Series and Award of Excellence. Minister of Defense General Christopher Musa, retired, represented by his Senior Special Assistant on Policy and Strategy, raised concerns over rising threats in the digital space alongside other security issues already facing the country as the 2027 elections approach.
The topic for this year's lecture, Security Challenges and Integrity of the 2025 election, was carefully choosing to address the current priorities centering around national safety, and was also choosing as our modest contributions to the lingering security challenges bothering our dear nation, which of course is a source of concern to all of us. He's expected to provide informed perspective on the relationship between national security and the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections.
Nigeria's experience reflects many of the challenges confronting democracies across the world, and we continue to confront terrorism and violent extremism, and to combat banditry, kidnapping, organized criminal networks, and communal conflicts. With our security agencies actively engaged across many, many theaters. Yet, while these traditional threats persist, a new generation of challenges is emerging. The digital revolution has transformed the information environment. Artificial intelligence has introduced extraordinary opportunities for development, innovation, and governance, but it has also created new vulnerabilities. Democracy is never secured by institutions alone. It is secured by people who collectively believe in their nation's worth and its worth protection.
Up, U.S. Congressman Riley Moore opposes lifting Nigeria's country of particular concern status after plateau attacks. Stay with us for details. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A recap of our top stories. Tinubu Peter Obi orders sign peace accord ahead of 2027 general election as INEC plans to deploy 1.4 million ad hoc staff nationwide. Resurgence in deadly attacks as gunmen kill more than 60 in 3 states within 48 hours. And U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington has no talks planned with Tehran as standoff deepens. Afrobeat superstar Davido has raised concerns over the political tension surrounding the Osun governorship election. Speaking on fears of violence, alleged vote buying, and his own safety in Nigeria, in an exclusive interview with News Central, the singer spoke ahead of Governor Ademola Adeleke's presentation of his certificate of return on Wednesday. We have details in this report.
Afrobeat superstar David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, has spoken candidly about the tension surrounding the Osun governorship election and the pressure accompanying his family's political involvement. In an exclusive interview with News Central TV, Davido explained why he returned to Nigeria despite concerns about his safety. He says he flew in from abroad with genuine fears, admitting he wondered whether the trip could be his last time coming home.
I have a lot of friends in the opposition party as well. Okay. You know, very close friends. And as they just started, they'll be playing with me. Will they come? Will they come? Will they come? Then before you know it, Osun becomes a war zone. Literally, you know what I'm saying? Before I came for the last rallies that I stayed for before I traveled to London, okay. When I was leaving my house in Atlanta, I looked at my twins. I said, God, please let this not be the last time I see them. Because I felt like I was going for a war.
His comments come amid concerns over possible violence and the safety of voters. Another major concern, vote buying, with allegations that billions of naira could be deployed to influence voters.
I just confirmed today. Okay. They spent 110 billion naira.
Wow.
I don't know where I'm coming from. I'm coming from somewhere where we had an insider that was sending us, if you see the cash that these people brought in, hey, if they had gotten away with that election, Nigeria is finished.
Davido addressed the issue, adding his voice to growing concerns about the role of money in Nigeria election. For him, the issue goes beyond his relationship with Governor Ademola Adeleke. He says the focus should remain on the people of Osun State and their right to freely choose their leaders without fear, pressure, or financial inducement. His interview has since generated widespread reactions, putting the issues of violence, vote buying, and electoral credibility firmly back in the spotlight.
Joining us now is Oluwafemi Adebayo, Head of Research and Strategy at Kimpact Development Initiative on elections and democracy expert. He is an election and democracy expert. Thank you very much for joining us for further examination of what played out in Osun. The latest is this exclusive we had with Davido. And I want to start with that big bombshell. He dropped about 110 billion naira. We can't independently verify that, but hearing that huge amount being deposed for an election in one state, what are your thinking or what are your thoughts about what we should be concerned about, one, and how things played out despite this humongous amount alleged to have been spent?
I mean, it's very important for us to understand that this is a conversation around political finance. And it's really worrying because at the end of the day, when we look at the Electoral Act, I think somewhere around Section 99, it was basically talking about the candidate expenditure ceiling for governorship election is just 3 billion. Again, if you had together all of those conversations around third-party expenses, the Electoral Act has also mentioned that no individual are expected to spend or donate more than 50 million, in the Electoral Act. And if you look at it, it's really worrying. But the question goes to the institution that is in charge of, tracking, documenting, and monitoring issues of campaign finance or political finance. And I think the last time I checked, the Independent National Electoral Commission has that mandate as part of the mandate. I mean, it's a question that we need to pose to INEC, what exactly is happening. But I think I can still answer a bit of the question, which is the fact that we need to wait till when the Electoral Act says that the political parties need to submit, their audited report regarding campaign expenditure and also their annual report and all of those reporting details. Maybe we need to ask after 3 months to know if the political parties have, submitted the details of their audited report and if they've been able to, publish it in the national dailies based on the provisions of the Act. I mean, these are very genuine questions, but we shouldn't gloss over it. Elections has happened before now. Have we heard the commission or political parties talk about this before now? I don't think I've heard that in recent times. Again, anything related to political offense is a conversation of electoral offenses. The moment you breach the ceiling for expenditure, it's electoral offenses. But I know quite well that there are some systemic issues that is a challenge in achieving some of this. And I will let you know that before now, prosecuting of electoral offenders also rests on INEC. And INEC has actually said over time, even from the days of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, regarding the capacity for them to be able to prosecute electoral offenders. There are quite a lot of issues in there. For instance, INEC doesn't have the power to arrest. INEC doesn't have the power to investigate. They only have the power to prosecute. So the conversation becomes, if anybody actually exceed the campaign ceiling or expenditure around the election as specified in the Electoral Act, the conversation is who ordered the arrest.
Indeed, I think these are germane issues that need to be, explored further, but we cannot do that in the short time that we have here on the news. However, I'd like you to think about this because we're going on a short break, because despite all the threats and the tension and the allegation of huge funding, voters still came out. Some were said to have been given money and they collected, yet they voted who they wanted to. What do you think gave Osun voters the confidence or courage to defy those fears? And how can we replicate that essence in the upcoming elections? More on that while we go on this break. We'll be right back. Glad you're still with us. We still have Oluwafemi Adebayo. Speaking on the aftermath of the Osun election. So go ahead with your response to my question, please.
Okay, I know your earlier question speak about why and how Osun people defied all of the logic and all of the odds to also be out.
Yeah, and how we can replicate that, that essence of them defying all obstacle to vote who they wanted.
What matters, what is very important to state is the fact that Osun people were very determined on Saturday. And it's not something we've seen in recent times in elections in Nigeria. That's very important for everybody to know. It's a form of behavioral shift that we've all been anticipating, from time immemorial in Nigeria, as far as I know, that elections have been happening. Because if you look at the pre-election, it was characterized with so much of violence, threat, tensions, killings, and a whole lot. But on Saturday, people do not even, it doesn't look like all of those things happened. and they came out in droves. The first time Osun, we also have over 1 million people to come out to vote in any given elections. That is unprecedented. And I think what is responsible for it is one major thing, which is the fact that Osun people seems to have wide variety of option in terms of candidacy. And this would take me to all of the political parties. Political parties should be giving their tickets to individuals that they know has capacity, has character, has competence. I mean, let's forget about Governor Adeleke, Senator Ademola Adeleke winning the elections. If you look at also the vote of the runner-up, you also know that it's a keenly contested elections. In last month, we also had an election in Ekiti where it all looks like a walkover, right? So the point I'm just making is political parties should at least make it a point of duty to be able to give Nigerians, to be able to give the indigene of their state a very credible, competent and good character individuals to be able to be on the ballot. One of the things Saturday election in Osun says to me is the fact that citizens not having their preferred candidate or a candidate they feel has a level of competence and character on the ballot is also one of the reasons why people stay away from voting. Because if you look at it across board, there were options for Osun State people to choose from, and they decided to choose their most preferred.
All right, we'll have to pause now. Thank you so much, Oluwafemi, for obliging us tonight. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has raised concerns over the growing presence of governors, senior political leaders and government officials in states during off-cycle elections. Reacting to the recent Osun governorship poll, Jonathan commended INEC, security agencies and voters for the peaceful conduct of the process. But he warned that the heavy deployment of political heavyweights, aides and security personnel from outside the state could create an atmosphere of intimidation and undue pressure. Jonathan recalled similar incidents during the Anambra and Ekiti elections while he was president, saying he ordered senior officials to leave. It's one of our top stories tonight on security. 25 people have been confirmed dead following a renewed attack on Bimpe village in Ampe Bwai district of Mangu local government area of Plateau State. Residents say the attackers stormed the community while people were asleep, shooting at residents and setting houses ablaze. Several others are receiving treatment in hospital. Commissioner of Police Ayodeji Fanio visited the scene where he condoled with the affected families and assured residents that the attackers would be tracked down and brought to justice. Similarly, in Sokoto and Adamawa State, at least 33 people have been killed in separate attacks on communities, highlighting renewed security concerns across the region. In Sokoto, at least 28 corpses were recovered after bandits attacked Ngushi community in Kebe local government area on Sunday evening. The victims included the local chief imam. From Plateau State, we have our correspondent, Chizoba Anyowe, who visited the community to speak further on what she saw on the ground. Also for this conversation, we have Benjamin Hon, a security analyst, to understand the wider pattern of attacks across these states. Thank you both for being here. Chizoba, what did you see on the ground, and what are residents saying about how the attack happened and the response of security agencies?
Good evening, Felicity. I saw grief, I saw pain, I saw sorrow. The list can go on and on of what I saw on the ground. The people were taken unawares, let me put it that way, because for some of them, there were no signs. Usually you would hear that some cattle were rustled, you would hear that somebody was killed, and so it's a kind of retaliation. But in this situation, many of them could not lay hands in particular on what triggered this present situation on the plateau. I mean, people are mourning. 25 people were killed early this morning, around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., where they were sleeping in their homes, and then some attackers, of course, had their way, invaded the community, and started shooting at them using other objects to unleash mayhem on these people. We're meant to understand that even toddlers, babies, were also affected in today's incident. It's such a sad one. They feel bad about this situation. And
any quick response from the security agencies so far?
Okay, well, while we were there, the Commissioner of Police also arrived. He had some words with the community members, and he assured that the attackers that are fleeing will be found wherever they may be hiding. They will be found, they'll be arrested and made to face justice. But this is where people are always having issues with these security agencies. You say they'll be arrested and made to face justice. But at the end of the day, many of them will tell you that none of these attackers have been actually arrested and made to face this justice. So that is their call for now.
Thank you very much, Isabel, for the coverage. Let's turn to Benjamin now. My colleague just said the security agencies are saying that they will arrest fleeing attackers, but that has been the recurrent promise, and less action in terms of justice being meted out to those arrested or found culpable. What are your thoughts on that sense of, I don't trust our security agencies, and of course the attack that we just recounted?
It's the same story every other day. Remember what your colleague Chizoba just said. This is not the first time that we're hearing it. When there was the Palm Sunday attack in Plateau State, the President and Commander-in-Chief Tinubu visited Plateau State, and he said, this incident will not repeat itself again. This won't happen again. That will be the last time. And after he visited Plateau State, we've had several repeats of the same incident. And this one we're talking about tonight is just the most recent. So to be honest, we have no confidence in what the president is saying. We have no confidence in what the security agencies are saying. We have no confidence in what the governor of Plateau State is saying. The Plateau people do not believe any word they hear from government officials. It's unfortunate, but honestly, these guys just come out and speak when things happen, and then they go back and rest. And I don't think they're doing anything. That's it. And it's sad.
So something my colleague said that really triggered me, and the fact that there was no inkling anything was going to happen. It was almost like, for a change, there was some level of peace. There was no quarreling with rustled cattle or any indication. This attack came almost out of the blue. Are there fears in your circle that this might be the beginning of a different kind of experience with security challenges?
It's just a change of tactics, Felicity. That's all it is. What's happening now is that probably the perpetrators of this crime figured that they are being repelled either by local vigilante forces or a combination of local vigilante forces and Nigerian security forces, and so they had to re-strategize and find a more potent way to launch their attacks. That's what I sense that is happening here. Not that the attacks are based on any recent events. This is more like a struggle to grab resources, in Plateau State. And it's always been the battle. It's either to grab the very fertile soil, the beautiful landscape, the serene environment, or whatever resources that these perpetrators would like to grab. And so it's a much more deeper issue than just reducing it to what happened very recently. Reprisals are small battles that happen in between, but the overall warfare, the overall agenda is much broader. And we can't trace it just to the most recent period of peace that was experienced within the plateau.
All right, Benjamin, we have to leave it there for now. Thank you for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
The United States is maintaining pressure over continued attacks on Christians in Nigeria following the latest deadly violence in Plateau State. Republican Congressman Riley Moore says the U.S. Department of State cannot lift Nigeria's designation as a country of particular concern, citing persistent attacks in the country's middle belt. Moore made the statement on Tuesday while reacting to an attack in Mangu local government area, where gunmen killed at least 24 people. The lawmaker said the latest incident underscores the need for the United States to retain Nigeria's CPC designation amid concerns over the safety of Christian communities. U.S. President Donald Trump says there are no ongoing or scheduled talks with Iran, contradicting recent claims by his envoy that Washington and Tehran were holding positive discussions. Trump made the statement on Tuesday in a post on his Truth Social platform while sharing a map depicting the Strait of Hormuz as a new American territory. He also said the U.S. naval blockade around the strategic waterway remains in effect, adding that the passage is open and all underwater mines have been removed or detonated. A short break. We'll return with business, sports, and entertainment news. Stay with us.
In business, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission says a 3-month investigation has uncovered possible price manipulation in Nigeria's cement industry. The probe, conducted by the Commission's Anti-Competitive Practices Department, followed complaints over rising cement prices despite abundant limestone resources and significant domestic production capacity. The FCCPC compared Nigeria's market with those in Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, and Algeria. It found that a 50-kilogram bag of cement, which sold for between 9,300 and 9,700 in January, rose to 10,500 to 13,000 by mid-year, with some locations reaching 15,000 naira. Key manufacturers have been summoned to provide pricing and production information. And coming down to the NGX, the bearish run on the Nigerian exchange continued on Tuesday, with the all-share index falling 0.35% to close at 241,611.23. And now we have the market cap now dipping down to 155 trillion naira now. And if you take a look at sectoral performance again, broadly weaker. Banking was clearly the biggest drag on the market, down 1.82%. We do have insurance just up marginally, not significant. Industrial goods is flat, and we have all other sectors in the red today on the NGX. Let's see how the market performs tomorrow, Wednesday. But that's it from me on Business Tonight. I am Joanna Mustafa. Up next, Udoka brings you sports.
In sports, Nigeria Women's Football League champions Edo Queens have been drawn in Group B of the WAFU B CAF Women's Champions League qualifiers scheduled to hold in Burkina Faso. Edo Queens will face ASEC Mimosas of Côte d'Ivoire, Ghanaian champions Ampem Dakwa and ASGNN of Niger in the 4-team group. Group A features hosts USFA of Burkina Faso, Dynamique of Benin and ASCO of Togo. The WAFU B CAF Women's Champions League qualifiers will take place from the 23rd of August to the 5th of September, I beg your pardon. Away from that one now, Senegal have appointed France's 1998 World Cup winner Patrick Vieira as head coach. The country's football federation announced this one on Tuesday, succeeding Papitao, who was dismissed after the World Cup. The federation said Vieira's appointment is a strategic move aiming to establish a high-level technical staff in line with the country's sporting ambitions. His main mission will be to revitalize the team after Senegal's bruising loss to Belgium in the last 32 of the World Cup. Tao was sacked less than 2 weeks later, with the Senegalese Football Federation president saying at the time that toxicity had surrounded the team at the World Cup after Tao demanded a pay rise. Now, Spain World Cup winner Rodri has finally completed his move to Barcelona from Manchester City. The 2024 Ballon d'Or winner signed a 4-year contract at the Nou Camp after Barcelona agreed to pay a fee in the region of £65 million, returning to Spanish football for the first time since he left Atletico Madrid in 2019. The 30-year-old leaves City after 7 seasons at the club, having made 298 appearances and won 12 major honours, including 4 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 3 EFL Cups, and the Champions League in 2023. His final 2 seasons at the club were disrupted by injury, but he returned to his best form in this summer's World Cup, being named player of the tournament as Spain lifted the trophy for the 2nd time. And finally, Jose Mourinho was officially presented as Real Madrid coach on Tuesday at a private ceremony in the boardroom of Ciudad Real Madrid, marking his return to the club 13 years after his first spell between 2010 and 2013. President Florentino Perez welcomed the Portuguese coach, who signed a 3-year contract running until June 30, 2029. Mourinho received the replica of the stadium, a watch, and a jersey bearing his name. Mourinho described his return as a deeper emotional experience than his first spell at the club between 2010 and 2013. And that's it on sports. I'm Udoka Njoko. Up next is entertainment with Sam Dandy.
And now in entertainment, the drama between Davido and Wande Cole over their unreleased Come My Way collaboration has taken another turn. Speaking exclusively to us on Take 3 earlier today, Davido dismissed Wande Cole's complaints, calling him a baby and claiming the singer has been trying to get his attention for a while now. Let's watch this.
First of all, Wande has been looking for my attention for the past year, just doing like a whatever. He's been looking for my attention for some reason. I don't know. He even asked for my number 2 weeks ago, and I told him not to give him. So he's just acting like a baby. He'll be fine. I didn't even say nothing bad. I just said, yeah, that I didn't record the song as a remix. You wanted to drop it as a remix, so I was like, no, I don't want us to do that. But if you listen to the interview, I was even like, but it would have been nice. That's how I ended it. Wande was one of the artists I was, growing up, looked up to. You know what I'm saying? I know it's painful to see the from back. So he's not himself in the head, but he'll be fine.
Davido made no comments about his relationship with Wizkid, but coming up to successful Osun state elections for his family, Davido's latest comments have added more fuel to the brewing tensions. Both artists have traded heavy words online, and fans have been weighing in on the controversy. Away from that, Meta is facing a major legal battle in the United States as a federal trial begins over allegations that Facebook and Instagram were deliberately designed to be addictive and harmful to young users. A coalition of 29 states accuses the company of misleading the public about safety and improperly collecting children's data. The states are seeking major changes to how the platforms operate, while Meta denies the allegations and says it has strong safety measures in place. We're going to watch how that one pans out, but this is Bigger Stories in Entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
Before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. Tinubu, Peter Obi, others signed peace accord ahead of 2027 general elections as INEC plans to deploy 1.6 million ad hoc staff nationwide. Resurgence in deadly attacks as gunmen kill more than 60 in 3 states within 48 hours. We also brought you news that the U.S. president has said Washington has no talks planned with Tehran as standoff deepens. We do like to hear from you. Please share your thoughts and your eyewitness report with the numbers showing now on your screen. We're on all social media platforms at News Central TV. Do give us a follow. You can watch live programming on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Many thanks for watching tonight. Coming up still is Game On, but for me, it's good night.